I want to talk to you about courage. The part of ourselves that takes a risk, that goes outside of our comfort zone, that's not afraid to fail, and sometimes does something that's against the norm or against other people's opinions. Just a quick story. It was 1979. I had come back from Europe where I tried making it as a professional basketball player, but it didn't work out. And I was lost about what I was going to do. And I was back home after, being away and going through college, and I was back living at home. And my parents really wanted me to stay in Pennsylvania. There were lots of different reasons for me to stay, but something inside of me was calling me to go west and to I had a coach out here that was my college basketball coach who was coaching at Sonoma State University, and I could go stay with him for a week or two. And in California, I had never been west of Chicago. And it wasn't popular at all. I got a lot of opposition, and not really negative opposition, but a lot of kind of encouraging me and almost begging me to stay. Don't go doing this, because maybe people had a sense that I was not going to come back, which I didn't. And I really went against my parents and some of my close friends' advice to not do this, make this move. It was an unpopular move, and I'm so glad I did it. Had I not done it, I wouldn't be living here. Of course, I wouldn't have my family, my wife and my children. I would have had another life, but I love this life, right? And it happened because I had the courage to do something that was unpopular. Not that you go looking for ways to be unpopular, but sometimes it's required. Sometimes what you know inside your gut or your intuition and your heart isn't what other people think is right for you. And when you feel that impulse and you feel that pressure from within, pay attention to it, because that inner voice, that guidance that comes from within is huge. It's more powerful than sometimes the external opinions and perspectives, right? Doesn't mean that you don't listen to what other people have to say and think about it and deliberate on it, but ultimately it comes back to your decision about your life. Now, you may not be there, but some of you may be listening to this and going, I'm exactly at that place. Another type of courage, the courage to speak up. It's not necessarily about going against the grain of making a move or doing something, a career change, but it's about saying what your truth is, about really owning the power of your voice, of your authentic voice. I know somebody who currently is working for somebody who's a really good person, but that other person sometimes says some comments, makes some derogatory statements that it's not the language that is politically correct, or it's not cool. And the person that I'm thinking of is really working on how they can deliver that message without seeming, like they're a jerk, like without pissing somebody off. But they say, you know what? It's not cool to say that word anymore. That word is dated. It's an archaic word. It's a derogatory statement, right? And it might take some guts for this person to really speak up, because that person may have something that might be their boss, or it might be a parent, right? So sometimes speaking up when you know or you feel you're right is really important to do. And some of us are good at it. We don't have a problem with confrontation, but other people, and more than not, are conflict or confrontational adverse. They don't want conflict, right? So if you know that that is one of your weaknesses, or it's an area where you struggle. I have a call today with a gentleman in Pennsylvania who he works on this. He struggles with this. He wants to speak up. He wants to get his voice. He's a rookie on a team, and there's a lot of veterans, and sometimes he listens to them and he sees it a different way, or he doesn't totally agree with them, but he kind of sits on it, and he's quiet, and deep down he knows that's not the right thing to do. So how do we develop a courageous spirit, whether it's making a move or saying something, when we know, if we don't say anything, it will just go unnoticed or unresolved? How do we do that? Well, one thing is to practice it in front of the mirror or in front of a friend. You pretend, somebody that you trust that you can share this with, like you talk to them as if you're talking to the other person, and you rehearsing it. Not that you're going to be fake when you meet with the person in real time, but that you've gotten comfortable with saying something, having it come out of your mouth, come out of your mind, what your real thoughts are, without apology, without having to take it back. And another way is, particularly if it's a relationship that you don't want to lose or you don't want to harm, but you have to say something to somebody, you preface it and saying, listen, I really respect our friendship, or I really respect where you're coming from, but I see it a different way, and I need to get this off my chest. Sometimes the way you tee that up, rather than just coming in and telling the person that you disagree or that you think they're a jerk or whatever, that's abrupt. So there is a technique, or there's a style that you can adopt to help you become more courageous, right? Now, in sports, courage is a whole different thing sometimes. Sometimes it's courage with yourself. It's courage to step out and be a leader, a vocal leader. You're real quiet, you're an introvert, but what's required is sometimes for somebody to shout something out on the field or on the court and be more than what you normally see yourself as. It takes courage to be a different person, to be more than what you've been in the past. That's another type. There's all different ways that we can develop more courage. When you see somebody who's courageous, think about it. Who's a courageous person you know? I don't mean crazy. They just do all kinds of, they don't value their body, and they'll dive off of things without knowing if there's rocks below, like that's nuts, right? You've heard stories, people breaking their neck because they were, so courageous, but they were idiots. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about somebody who really will go out of their comfort zone, will take a risk even if they're not sure of the outcome. You respect that person. That person is someone you kind of look up to or admire, and maybe that person is you. And if it's not you, be thinking about how can you become more courageous in your life so that you exert the power within you. Because when you hold back and you're not courageous, you're not really very powerful. You may be logical and rational and safe, there's a place for that, but not all the time. So think about courage, and think about becoming more and more of a courageous performer, of a courageous person.